Avery Callahan, 32, stared at the wedding invitation with trembling hands. Her perfect sister Madeline was marrying into the wealthy Collins family, while Avery's parents still thought she was just an assistant at a tech startup. Little did they know Avery had signed the final papers yesterday. She was now CEO of Horizon Tech, valued at $1.2 billion. As she slid the golden-trimmed invitation back into its envelope, her phone lit up with her mother's name. It was time for another guilt trip. Before I dive into this family revenge drama that changed my life forever, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy real-life stories of family betrayal and sweet justice. Trust me, you'll want to see how this wedding disaster unfolds when my family finally learned what I'd been hiding all these years. Growing up in suburban Boston, I always lived in Madeline's shadow. My sister was 3 years older, stunning with her natural blonde hair and bright blue eyes, the perfect daughter who excelled at everything. Valedictorian homecoming queen, full scholarship to Harvard. Meanwhile, I was the awkward younger sister with unruly brown hair and glasses who preferred coding to cheerleading. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. Every achievement of mine was measured against Madeline's. When I got a 96 on my math test, my mother would sigh and say, "Madeline never got below 98. When I won second place in the science fair, my father commented, "Almost as good as your sister's first place last year." Their words carved deep wounds, but I learned to hide my pain behind a polite smile. Family dinners were especially excruciating. My parents would spend the entire meal praising Madeline's latest accomplishments while barely acknowledging my existence. Madeline got an internship at Goldman Sachs, they'd proudly announce to anyone who would listen. When I tried to share my excitement about coding my first program, my father interrupted with, "That's nice, Avery, but did you hear Madeline was selected for a prestigious study abroad program?" The pattern continued through college. I chose MIT instead of Harvard, another disappointment in my parents' eyes. "It's a good school too," my mother would tell her friends with a hint of apology in her voice. Despite graduating with honors in computer science and engineering, my parents only attended my graduation because Madeline had a job interview in Boston that same weekend. After college, Madeline took a high-profile position at an investment bank, while I joined a small tech startup that my parents dismissed as one of those computer things that will probably fail. They never asked about my work, assuming I was just answering phones or getting coffee for real professionals. "When are you going to get a serious job, Avery?" my father would ask during our infrequent phone calls. "Your sister just got another promotion. She's dating Bradley Collins, now you know, from the Collins family. They own half of New England." What my family didn't know was that the little startup I joined had revolutionary AI technology. As one of the first employees, I received significant equity. While Madeline climbed the corporate ladder in her Louboutins, I was quietly helping build the foundation of what would become one of the most valuable tech companies in the country. Yet every family gathering remained the same, Madeline at the center, basking in adoration while I was the forgettable sister on the periphery. The Christmas before the wedding was particularly painful. Madeline flashed her massive engagement ring while my parents fawned over wedding plans and gushed about how she was marrying into such good family. "And what about you, Avery? Anyone special?" my aunt had asked. Before I could answer, my mother jumped in. "Oh, Avery's focused on her little job right now. Not everyone can be as lucky as Madeline." I had wanted to scream that I wasn't just focused on my little job. I was about to be named CEO after our founder stepped down. Instead, I smiled politely and excused myself to the bathroom, where I splashed cold water on my face and reminded myself that soon, very soon, everything would change. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday, an elaborate creation of gold, foil, and ivory cardstock, announcing the union of Madeline Callahan and Bradley Collins at the historic street. Bartholomew's Church, followed by a reception at the exclusive Westbrook Country Club. Inside was a handwritten note from my sister. "Hope you can make it, little sis. Wear something nice for once." I placed the invitation on my kitchen counter and stared at it for a long time. The timing couldn't have been worse. The wedding was scheduled for the exact weekend when I would be finalizing the biggest acquisition in my company's history, a deal I'd been orchestrating for months. My phone rang less than an hour after the invitation had been delivered. Mother's impeccable timing as usual. "Avery, did you receive Madeline's invitation?" she asked, without bothering with a greeting. "Hello to you too, Mom." "Yes, I just got it." "Good. Now, about your dress. I think we should go shopping together. You know how important this wedding is for the family. The Collins will be there, and we need to make a good impression." I took a deep breath. "Mom, I'm not sure I can attend. There's a major work event that weekend." "A work event?" she interrupted, her voice rising. "This is your sister's wedding. What could possibly be more important?" How could I explain that I was about to sign a $500 million acquisition deal? That business journalists would be covering the story, that investors and board members would be flying in from around the world? "It's complicated, Mom. The company is..." "What company?" "That little computer place, Avery. This is ridiculous. Your sister is marrying into the Collins family. Do you have any idea what this means for us? For your future, the connections alone are priceless." I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest. "Mom, I understand it's important, but no buts. Your father and I have discussed this, and we expect you to be there. Family comes first, Avery. Madeline has always supported you. The least you can do is show up for her big day." The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. When had Madeline ever supported me? When had my family ever put me first? "I'll see what I can do," I said non-committally. "That's not good enough. We need confirmation now. The seating arrangements are being finalized this week." I hesitated, searching for a way out. "Can I let you know tomorrow? I need to check with my boss." My mother scoffed. "Your boss? Right. Well, I'll tell you what, Avery, your father and I have always been patient with your alternative choices. But this is where we draw the line. If you can't be bothered to attend your only sister's wedding, then perhaps you shouldn't bother coming home for Christmas or Thanksgiving either." The ultimatum hung in the air between us. My grip tightened on the phone. "Are you seriously threatening to cut me off if I miss one event because of work?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's not a threat. It's a reality check. Family obligations matter, Avery. Madeline would never miss your wedding." "If I ever had one, you mean," I muttered. "What was that?" "Nothing. I'll figure something out." "Good. Oh, and please do something about your hair before the wedding. The photographer is very expensive." After hanging up, I sat in my silent apartment, the wedding invitation mocking me from the counter. 10 years of being dismissed, overlooked, and compared unfavorably to my sister crashed down on me all at once. My company, my future, was at a pivotal moment. The acquisition would transform us from a promising startup into a major industry player. And I was being asked to sacrifice it all for a sister who had never once stood up for me. That night I made my decision. I would attend the wedding, but on my terms. And I would bring along something better than a gift: the truth about who Avery Callahan really was. The headquarters of Horizon Tech occupied the top 5 floors of a gleaming skyscraper in downtown Boston. My corner office offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, though I rarely had time to enjoy it. For the past 3 years I had poured every ounce of my energy into transforming the company from a scrappy startup into a technology powerhouse. "Miss Callahan, the board is ready for you," my assistant, Marcus, announced, poking his head through the door. I gathered my presentation materials and took a deep breath. Today's meeting would make official what had been in the works for months: my promotion from COO to CEO, following our founder's decision to step down and focus on research. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. 10 pairs of eyes watched me take my position at the head of the table. Among them was Richard Harmon, our founder and outgoing CEO. Gentlemen, ladies, I began today marks a new chapter for Horizon Tech. For the next hour, I outlined my vision for the company's future, including the strategic acquisition of Neurotech, our main competitor. The deal would consolidate our position as the market leader in AI-driven analytics and open doors to government contracts that had previously been out of reach. When I finished, Richard stood up. I founded this company with a vision to change how businesses harness the power of data. When Avery joined us 7 years ago, I recognized something special in her, a rare combination of technical brilliance and business acumen. Under her leadership as COO, our valuation has tripled. I can think of no better person to take Horizon Tech to the next level. The vote was unanimous. By noon, the press release was drafted. By 3, the contracts were signed. By 5, I was officially the CEO of a billion-dollar company, the youngest female chief executive in our industry. As congratulations poured in, I sat alone in my office, staring at the wedding invitation I'd brought with me. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same weekend that Madeline would be walking down the aisle in a designer gown, I would be closing the biggest deal of my career. A deal that would make headlines in the Wall Street Journal and Forbes. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Your mother ordered your dress. Size 8 right. Madeline says bridesmaids should lose 5 to 10 pounds before fittings. I wasn't even a bridesmaid, just a guest, and they still felt entitled to dictate my appearance." Another text followed, seating chart finalized. "You're at table 12 with your mother's cousins from Ohio. Table 12. As far from the main table as possible without being seated in the kitchen with the staff." The message was clear. I was an obligation, not a celebrated guest. I put down my phone and turned to my computer, pulling up the Neurotech acquisition documents. The signing ceremony was scheduled for Saturday at 3 p.m., right when Madeline would be saying her vows. Executives were flying in from Tokyo, London, and San Francisco. Financial analysts had been briefed. A documentary crew had requested permission to film the historic merger. Moving the signing wasn't an option. But neither was missing it. I called Marcus into my office. "I need you to clear my schedule for the day after tomorrow, all day." He looked confused. "But the board presentation, move it, I'm going shopping." The next morning I walked into Neiman Marcus and approached the personal shopping department. "I need a dress," I told the stylist. "Something unforgettable." For 3 hours I tried on designer gowns, finally selecting a sleek, midnight blue Valentino that the stylist described as powerful yet elegant. The price tag made even me wince, but it would be worth every penny. Next came shoes, jewelry, and a visit to the most exclusive salon in Boston, where they transformed my usually practical hairstyle into something worthy of a magazine cover. The final touch was a business card holder from Tiffany & Co., a small indulgence to mark my promotion. By the time I arrived home, my transformation was complete. The woman who stared back at me from the mirror wasn't the overlooked younger sister anymore. She was Avery Callahan, CEO. That evening, I sent a brief email to the event coordinator for the Neurotech acquisition. "Please reschedule the signing ceremony to 11 a.m. I have a family obligation at 3 p.m. Also, arrange for the company helicopter to be on standby. I'll need to travel immediately after the signing." Then I called my mother. "I'll be at the wedding," I said before she could speak. "But I'll be arriving just before the ceremony and leaving immediately after the photos. But the reception is not an option. Take it or leave it." The shocked silence on the other end was deeply satisfying. "Fine," she finally said. "But please don't make a scene. This day is about Madeline." "It always is," I replied and hung up. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. I was up at 5 a.m. reviewing final acquisition documents while my hair and makeup team worked their magic in my apartment. By 10 a.m., I was at Horizon Tech headquarters, dressed in a conservative business suit, my Valentino hanging in a garment bag in my office. The Neurotech signing went flawlessly. Handshakes, champagne photographs for the company archives. By 1230, I was in the helicopter changing into my wedding attire as we flew toward St. Bartholomew's Church. The pilot's eyes widened when I emerged from the small bathroom compartment, transformed from businesswoman to vision in midnight blue. We landed at 2:45, 15 minutes before the ceremony. I could see the guests streaming into the church, a sea of pastel dresses and dark suits. A few heads turned as I stepped out of the helicopter, the downdraft from the rotors making my dress billow dramatically around me. My mother was waiting at the church entrance, her expression a mixture of relief and horror. A helicopter. Really, Avery, must you always be so dramatic? Hello to you too, Mom. You look lovely. Her eyes narrowed as she took in my appearance. I knew what she saw, a woman who no longer fit the image of the awkward, forgotten daughter. The designer dress hugged my figure perfectly. The diamond earrings caught the sunlight. My makeup was flawless, my hair styled in elegant waves. That dress is. She struggled for words. Valentino, I supplied. Shall we go in? Inside, I was escorted to the back row, despite having arrived on time. I smiled politely at my mother's cousins from Ohio, who barely recognized me. The ceremony was exactly what you'd expect from a Collins wedding, elaborate, traditional, and dripping with wealth. Madeline, of course, was stunning in her custom gown, though I couldn't help but notice how tense she looked as she walked down the aisle. Not exactly the picture of a blissful bride. After the vows, the photographer corralled the family for pictures on the church steps. I took my place at the edge of the group, only to have the photographer frown. Could the lady in blue move back a bit? You're pulling focus from the bride. I almost laughed out loud. For once in my life, I was actually being noticed in my family's presence. My father sidled up to me while Madeline posed with her new in-laws. That's quite a dress, Avery. Must have cost a pretty penny. Hope that assistant job of yours pays better than we thought. It does, I replied cryptically. The photographer waved us over for another group shot. As we assembled, my phone buzzed in my clutch. I glanced at it discreetly, a news alert from the Wall Street Journal: breaking Horizon Tech acquires Neurotech in $500 deal, new CEO, Avery Callahan makes industry history. Right on schedule. Avery, put your phone away, my mother hissed. The photographer is waiting. I slipped my phone back into my clutch and smiled for the camera. 3, 2, 1, flash. Now I believe the reception my father began. I'm not staying for the reception, I reminded him. I have an important commitment. More important than your sister's wedding, he demanded, his voice rising enough to draw attention. Yes, I said simply. Actually, I was interrupted by Bradley Collins' father, who had approached our little group with his phone in hand, his eyes wide with shock. Excuse me, he said, looking directly at me. Are you Avery Callahan of Horizon Tech? The world seemed to stop. My mother and father froze. Madeline, still posing nearby, turned her head sharply. Yes, I said, extending my hand. William Collins, I presume. It's a pleasure to meet you. He shook my hand with newfound respect. The pleasure is mine. I just saw the news about your acquisition of Neurotech. Brilliant move. Our investment firm has been watching Horizon for some time. My father's face had gone pale. What acquisition? William Collins looked confused. Your daughter's company just made the biggest tech acquisition of the year. It's all over the financial news. He turned back to me. We should talk. Collins Investments is always looking for promising partnerships. I smiled politely. I'd be happy to have my office arrange a meeting next week. Your office? My mother's voice was faint. Yes, at Horizon Tech, where I'm the CEO, not an assistant. I turned to William Collins. If you'll excuse me, I need to speak with my parents briefly before I leave. As William walked away, my parents stared at me in stunned silence. From the corner of my eye, I could see Madeline whispering urgently to her new husband, her face a storm of emotions. CEO, my father finally managed. But you said you were just. I never said I was just anything, I corrected him. You assumed. You've always assumed the worst about me, and the best about Madeline. I stopped correcting you years ago. I opened my clutch and pulled out my business card, handing it to my father. The embossed letters caught the sunlight. Every Callahan Chief Executive Officer. Horizon Tech is valued at $1.2 billion as of this morning, I said quietly. I've been with the company since it was worth less than $1 million. I was the 5th employee hired. I built their AI framework from scratch, and today I became the youngest female CEO in the industry, while acquiring our biggest competitor. My mother grabbed the card from my father's hand. This can't be real. I laughed softly. Oh, it's very real. Just like the 3-bedroom apartment I own downtown, and the summer house on Cape Cod, and my portfolio that's worth more than this entire wedding cost. The look on their faces was worth every moment of being overlooked and underestimated. Years of dismissal, of, why can't you be more like your sister, decades of being the family disappointment. And now, in one perfect moment, the tables had turned. Hey everyone, I can see you're all on the edge of your seats. This family drama is just heating up, and I promise the next part reveals even more shocking twists. If you're enjoying this real-life revenge story, hit that like button right now, and subscribe to hear more stories like this one. Have you ever been underestimated by your family? Let me know in the comments. Now let's get back to the moment my parents realized just how wrong they'd been about me all these years. The silence that followed my revelation stretched uncomfortably. My father was the first to recover, his expression shifting from shock to something more calculating. Well, this is unexpected, he said, forcing a smile. Why didn't you tell us, sweetheart? We would have been so proud. The sudden endearment, sweetheart, after years of indifference, made my stomach turn. I kept my face neutral as I replied, would you? I'm not sure that's true. My mother stepped closer, lowering her voice as guests milled around us. Avery darling, this is wonderful news, we should celebrate. Perhaps you could join us at the reception after all. I'm sure we can rearrange the seating to put you at the family table. Table 12 to the family table in the span of 5 minutes. The transformation was almost comical. I'm afraid that's not possible, I said. As I mentioned, I have commitments. The acquisition announcement has triggered a series of meetings that can't be postponed. But surely your company can manage without you for one evening, my father pressed. This is a family celebration. I arched an eyebrow. I'm the CEO. The company looks to me for leadership, especially today. And frankly, I've already rescheduled multiple million-dollar meetings just to attend the ceremony. Before they could respond, Madeline approached, her wedding gown rustling impressively. Her smile was tight, her eyes calculating. Avery, everyone's talking about you, she said, embracing me stiffly. CEO of Horizon Tech. Why the big secret? It wasn't a secret, Maddie. It just wasn't something anyone in the family ever asked about. She laughed too loudly. Well, it's absolutely amazing. Bradley's father is very impressed. You must come to the reception. I insist. The same sister who hadn't bothered to make me a bridesmaid was now insisting on my presence, not because she wanted me there, but because of what I could offer her new family through business connections. As I was just explaining to Mom and Dad, I can't stay, but I'd be happy to have lunch with you and Bradley when you return from your honeymoon. Madeline's smile faltered. But it's my wedding day. Yes, and it's beautiful. Congratulations. I glanced at my watch. I really do need to go. The helicopter is waiting. Helicopter, Madeline repeated, her voice rising slightly. My mother stepped in quickly. Avery, before you go, perhaps you could just say hello to a few people. The Collins family is very well connected, and now that we know about your position, it might be good for you to network a bit. And there it was. After years of dismissing my career, they were now eager to use it and me to improve their standing with their new in-laws. I appreciate the thought, Mom, but Horizon Tech doesn't need connections. We're doing quite well on our own. I opened my clutch and withdrew an envelope. Before I forget, here's my gift for the newlyweds. Madeline took the envelope with a bemused expression. Thank you, though you really didn't need to. She stopped mid-sentence as she opened it, her eyes widening at the check inside. That should cover the down payment on a nice house, I said casually. Consider it my way of making up for all the family events I'll probably miss due to work commitments. My father peered over Madeline's shoulder, his jaw dropping at the amount. I'd written the check for $250,000, a significant sum but a fraction of my annual bonus. Avery, this is too much, he stammered. Is it I thought nothing was too good for the golden child? The words slipped out before I could stop them, carrying years of resentment. My mother's face flushed. That's unfair, Avery. We've always loved you both equally. I almost laughed out loud. Have you? When was the last time you asked about my life, my achievements, my dreams? When was the last time you were proud of me for being me, not for how I compared to Madeline? Nearby guests were beginning to notice our tense conversation. The photographer was discreetly edging closer, sensing a moment worth capturing. This isn't the time or place, my father said sternly, reverting to the tone he'd used throughout my childhood when I'd disappointed him. No, it never is, I agreed. There's never a right time to acknowledge the truth in this family. Madeline was still staring at the check, her perfect wedding day now thoroughly disrupted. I don't understand. If you've been so successful, why pretend to be just an assistant all these years? I never pretended anything. You all made assumptions and I stopped correcting them when it became clear that nothing I achieved would ever measure up in your eyes. William Collins approached again, bringing his wife and several other guests with him. Miss Callahan, I hope I'm not interrupting, but several of our friends were hoping for an introduction. Your company's breakthrough in predictive analytics has been the talk of the financial world. Suddenly I was surrounded by the wedding's most prestigious guests, all eager to meet the CEO of Horizon Tech, rather than the bride's plain younger sister. The irony wasn't lost on me. After a lifetime of being invisible at family gatherings, I was now the center of attention at Madeline's wedding. I handled the introductions smoothly, exchanged business cards and promised future meetings. All the while I could see my sister's expression darkening, her special day now overshadowed. When I finally extricated myself from the crowd, I found my mother waiting. You're doing this deliberately, she accused in a harsh whisper, stealing Madeline's spotlight on her wedding day. The injustice of her words stung more than I wanted to admit. I'm leaving a wedding early to return to work, Mom. I showed up as promised. I gave a generous gift. If people are interested in my company, that's hardly my fault. You could have told us beforehand. Prepared us. Would you have believed me, or would you have accused me of exaggerating to compete with Madeline's big day? She had no answer for that which was answer enough. I need to go, I said, suddenly exhausted by the whole charade. Give Maddie my congratulations again. I turned to leave only to find my father blocking my path. Your mother and I would like to come see your company sometime, he said, his voice unnaturally cheerful. Now that we know what you've been up to. Perhaps next week, after years of indifference, now they wanted a tour. I knew exactly what would happen. They'd brag to all their friends about their brilliant younger daughter, pretending they'd supported me all along. I'm traveling next week, Tokyo, then London. Perhaps another time. When you get back, then he persisted. We're so proud of you, Avery. The words I'd longed to hear for decades now rang hollow. Are you proud of me, Dad, or are you proud of what I can now offer you? His smile faltered, revealing the truth. He hadn't changed, he just saw me differently now that I had status and wealth that could benefit him. That's what I thought, I said quietly. I'll see you at Christmas, maybe. As I walked away, Madeline called after me. Avery, you can't just drop this bomb and leave. I paused, turned back, one last time. Watch me. Walking down the church steps toward the waiting helicopter, I felt lighter than I had in years. The expressions on their faces, shock, disbelief, sudden respect, mixed with calculation, would sustain me through many future family gatherings. My phone buzzed again. Another news alert: Horizon Tech stock soars following Neurotech acquisition. I smiled as I climbed into the helicopter. The pilot handed me a glass of champagne as the rotors began to spin. Where to, Miss Callahan? Back to the office, I said. We're just getting started. The Monday following the wedding, I arrived at Horizon Tech headquarters to find a massive bouquet of flowers at my assistant's desk. These came for you, Marcus said, handing me the card. Congratulations on your well-deserved success. We'd love to discuss potential synergies between Collins Investments and Horizon Tech. Dinner soon. William Collins B. Tucked the card into my pocket. Schedule a meeting with Mr. Collins for next month. And have someone take these flowers to the Children's Hospital downtown. Also, Marcus added hesitantly, your parents have called 4 times this morning. I wasn't surprised. After my dramatic exit from the wedding, I'd turned off my personal phone, giving myself a weekend of peace before the inevitable onslaught. If they call again, tell them I'm in meetings all day. The acquisition had created a whirlwind of activity: press interviews, investor calls, integration planning sessions. I immersed myself in work, pushing thoughts of my family to the back of my mind. But by Wednesday, I couldn't avoid them any longer. My father showed up at the office unannounced, charming his way past reception with the claim that he was surprising his daughter. I was in the middle of a video conference when Marcus knocked and whispered, "Your father is here. He insists on seeing you." Sighing, I wrapped up the call and braced myself. My father strode into my corner office like he owned it, letting out a low whistle as he took in the panoramic views, the elegant furniture, the awards lining the walls. "Impressive," he said, running his fingers along the edge of my desk. "Very impressive." "Dad, what are you doing here? Can't a father visit his successful daughter at work?" He settled into one of my visitor chairs without waiting for an invitation. "Your mother and I have been trying to reach you. I've been busy." The acquisition. Yes, we've been following the news. Front page of the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Our daughter, the wunderkind of the tech world. He beamed as if he'd had anything to do with my success. I remained standing, keeping my desk between us. "What do you want, Dad?" His smile faltered slightly. "Well, that's direct. Your mother and I thought we could take you to dinner to celebrate. The whole family." Madeline and Bradley cut their honeymoon short when they heard about your big news. The implication was clear: my sister had abandoned her romantic getaway to rush back and ensure she wasn't left out of whatever advantages my new public status might offer. "I'm having dinner with the board tonight," I lied smoothly. "Perhaps another time. Tomorrow then. Or this weekend." He leaned forward. "You know, Bradley's father is very interested in your company. The Collins family could be powerful allies." And there it was, the real reason for this sudden interest in my career. "Horizon Tech doesn't need allies, Dad. We're doing fine on our own." He waved his hand dismissively. "Everyone needs allies, Avery. William Collins is very influential in Boston. The right word from him in the right ears could open doors. I've opened my own doors for years. Without any help from the Callahan or Collins families." My father's expression hardened. "There's no need for that tone. We're trying to support you now that we understand what you've built." "Now that you understand what I've built," I repeated. "Not when I was building it. Not when I needed support or encouragement or just basic acknowledgement. Only now that it's successful and potentially beneficial to you." He sighed dramatically. "Is that what this is about? You're still upset that we paid more attention to Madeline growing up? She was the oldest, Avery. And she was easier, always doing what was expected. While I was the disappointment." "We never said that. You didn't have to." It was clear in every conversation, every comparison, every sigh, when I didn't measure up to the golden child. My father stood his patience visibly wearing thin. You're being childish. Holding on to old grievances instead of seeing the opportunity in front of you. The Collins family could take Horizon Tech to the next level. I laughed softly. We're already at the next level. And the one after that? I moved toward the door. I have another meeting, Dad. You should go. Avery, if you're genuinely interested in reconnecting as family, I'm open to that. But if you're here to broker some deal with the Collins dynasty using me as the bargaining chip, I'm not interested. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother, having lunch with Maddie and Bradley's mother. Mentioned your company's charitable foundation, Collins Foundation, looking for partnership opportunities. I held up my phone so my father could see the message. See, this isn't about family. It's about what you can get from me now that I'm successful. He had the grace to look momentarily embarrassed before rallying. Of course, we want to support your success. That's what families do. No, Dad. Families support each other through failure too. They show up when it's hard, not just when there's something to gain. Before he could respond, Marcus knocked again. Miss Callahan, your 2 o'clock is waiting. I nodded gratefully. I have to go. Please show yourself out, Dad. For a moment he looked like he might argue, but then his shoulders sagged in defeat. We're having a family dinner on Sunday. Your mother is cooking your favorite pot roast. I almost pointed out that pot roast had never been my favorite, it was Madeline's, but I let it go. Another small example of how little they knew me. I'll let you know, I said, not committing either way. After he left, I stood at my office window looking out over the city. For years I'd fantasized about this moment when my family would finally see me truly see what I'd accomplished. But now that it had happened, the victory felt hollow. Their sudden interest wasn't about pride in me, it was about what they could gain from my success. That evening, I received a text from Madeline. We need to talk. Coffee tomorrow. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a cafe near my office. She was waiting when I arrived, looking immaculate as always, but with shadows under her eyes that her expensive concealer couldn't quite hide. Congratulations on the acquisition, she said as I sat down. It's all Bradley's father can talk about. Thank you. How was the honeymoon? What you had of it, anyway? She flinched slightly. Bermuda was lovely, though I admit we were distracted after hearing the news. News travels fast, especially when it disrupts a wedding. She stirred her latte with precise movements. Why didn't you tell us, Avery, all these years, pretending to be just another coder? I never pretended anything, I interrupted. You all assumed, and I stopped correcting you because it didn't matter what I said. In your eyes, in our parents' eyes, I would never measure up to the golden child. Madeline looked genuinely surprised. Is that how you see it? That I was the favorite, wasn't it obvious? Why can't you be more like your sister? Madeline never got less than an A. Madeline always knows how to dress appropriately. She was silent for a long moment. You know, it wasn't easy being the standard you were measured against either. The pressure was suffocating. I was never allowed to fail, to be anything less than perfect. Poor you, I couldn't help the sarcastic response. I'm not asking for sympathy, I'm trying to explain. She leaned forward. Did you ever wonder why I went into finance instead of art, which I actually loved? Why I dated Bradley even though we have nothing in common? Why I'm trapped in a marriage that's more business arrangement than love match? That caught me off guard. What are you saying? I'm saying, I've spent my entire life fulfilling our parents' expectations, being their idea of perfect. While you broke free, built your own life on your terms. She looked down at her wedding ring, twisting it absently. I envy you, Avery. I always have. I stared at her, struggling to reconcile this vulnerable confession with the confident, perfect sister I'd grown up resenting. You never showed it. You never stood up for me when they tore me down. I know, she said quietly. I was afraid if I did, they'd start seeing my flaws too. It was easier to let them focus on criticizing you. She looked up, meeting my eyes. I'm sorry. It was cowardly. The apology I'd waited decades for arrived unexpectedly in a quiet cafe on an ordinary Thursday. I didn't know how to respond. Bradley's father wants to invest in Horizon Tech, she continued when I remained silent. He's pressuring me to convince you. Our parents are thrilled at the prospect of joining the two family legacies. And what do you want, Maddie? She seemed startled by the question, as if no one had asked her that in a very long time. I want out of this marriage, this life, this endless performance. She gave a bitter laugh. But I'm trapped now. The golden child can't get divorced after 2 weeks. I studied my sister's face, seeing for the first time the prison her perfection had built around her. We were both victims of our parents' expectations, just in different ways. What if I said slowly, I could offer you a job, something completely different from finance, something challenging that has nothing to do with being a Collins or a Callahan? Hope flashed across her face before doubt replaced it. I don't know anything about technology. We have a new education division developing AI curriculum for schools. Your organizational skills would be valuable. And you'd report to our education director, not to me. Our parents would hate it, she said, a small smile playing at her lips. Probably. Bradley's family would be scandalized. Definitely. We looked at each other, and for the first time in our adult lives shared a moment of genuine connection. I'll think about it, she said, finally. Thank you for the offer. And Avery, I really am proud of what you've accomplished. On your own terms. As we parted ways, I realized that the revenge I'd anticipated showing up my family proving my worth hadn't brought the satisfaction I'd expected. But this unexpected moment of honesty with my sister felt like the beginning of something more valuable. The family dinner invitation from my parents hung over me all week. Part of me wanted to decline to protect the independence I'd fought so hard to achieve. But another part was curious, would this be a genuine attempt to reset our relationship, or just another play to access my newfound influence? Sunday arrived, and after much deliberation, I decided to go, but on my terms. I drove myself to my parents' suburban home, the same house where I'd grown up feeling perpetually inadequate. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Madeline's car already there, but not Bradley's sleek sports car. Interesting. My mother answered the door with an overly bright smile. Avery, you came. She embraced me awkwardly, the gesture feeling foreign after years of emotional distance. Come in, everyone's in the living room. Everyone turned out to be my father Madeline, and to my surprise, my Aunt Clara, my father's sister who had always been kind to me growing up. There she is, my father boomed, standing to greet me. The tech genius Aunt Clara rolled her eyes at his performance before giving me a genuine hug. Congratulations, Avery. I always knew you were destined for big things. Thanks, Aunt Clara. I didn't expect to see you here. Your mother invited me last minute. I suspect she thought my presence might increase the chances of you actually showing up. She winked conspiratorially. Madeline sat quietly on the sofa, looking elegant but subdued. No Bradley in sight. Where's your husband? I asked as I took a seat. Tokyo, she answered. Business trip. My mother bustled in with a tray of appetizers. Bradley is so busy with the family business. Such an important position. She set the tray down and surveyed me critically. Avery, you could have dressed up a bit more for dinner. Some things never changed. I'd worn a simple but expensive cashmere sweater and designer jeans, perfectly appropriate for a family dinner, but not showy enough for my mother's standards. I came straight from the office, I lied smoothly. On a Sunday, my father questioned. Tech never sleeps, Dad. Before he could respond, Madeline stood up. I need some air. Avery, would you join me on the porch for a minute? Grateful for the escape, I followed her outside. The evening air was cool and refreshing after the stifling atmosphere inside. "I've been thinking about your offer," she said, without preamble, "and I want to take it. But I need to do things properly. End my marriage first, stand on my own." I nodded, respecting her decision. "The offer will still be there when you're ready. Thank you." She hesitated, then added, "I told them today, Mom and Dad, about wanting to leave Bradley." That explained the tension in the house. "How did they take it? About as well as you'd expect." "Dad's worried about the Collins connection being severed. Mom's already planning how to spin it to their friends." She laughed without humor. Neither of them asked if I was okay. We stood in silence for a moment, the shared experience creating a bond that had never existed between us before. "We should go back in before they send a search party," I said eventually. Dinner was a strained affair. My mother had indeed made pot roast, Madeline's favorite, not mine, and spent the meal alternating between excessive praise of my career and pointed comments about Bradley's family connections that Madeline was foolishly jeopardizing. "William Collins was very impressed with you, Avery," my father said as he refilled his wine glass. "He mentioned potential investment opportunities." "Horizon Tech isn't seeking outside investors at this time," I replied evenly. "But the Collins name would lend additional prestige." "Our technology speaks for itself," I interrupted. "We don't need prestige by association." My mother sighed dramatically. "You always were stubborn. Just like your aunt." She shot a look at Aunt Clara. "Thank you," Aunt Clara and I responded in unison, then smiled at each other. "I've been following Horizon's work in education technology," Aunt Clara said, deliberately changing the subject. "Quite innovative. I'd love to hear more about it." As I described our educational initiatives, I noticed Madeline listening intently, occasionally asking insightful questions. My parents, meanwhile, grew increasingly restless as the conversation moved away from potential Collins connections. When dessert was served, my father tried one last approach. "Avery, your mother and I have been thinking. We'd like to host a dinner party next month. Invite some of our friends, the Collins family, of course, maybe some of your business associates. A chance to celebrate your success properly." I set my fork down. "A dinner party? Yes. Nothing too elaborate. Just 40 or 50 people. To celebrate my success," I repeated. "The success you knew nothing about until last weekend. The success you dismissed for years as that computer thing and not a real job." My father shifted uncomfortably. "Well, we didn't fully understand." "You didn't try to understand," I corrected. "You didn't ask questions or show interest. You were too busy focusing on Madeline and her perfect life." "That's not fair," my mother interjected. "We always supported you." "Did you? When was it when you told me my MIT scholarship was nice but not Harvard? Or when you scheduled family vacations during my robotics competitions? Or maybe it was all those times you introduced me as Madeline's sister instead of by my name." A heavy silence fell over the table. Aunt Clara watched with quiet approval while Madeline studied her plate. "We made mistakes," my father finally admitted. "But we're trying now. Isn't that what matters?" "What matters is why you're trying now," I said. "Is it because you suddenly care about my happiness, or is it because I'm now useful to you?" Neither of them had an answer. I stood up. "Thank you for dinner. I should go." "Avery, don't be dramatic," my mother began, but Madeline cut her off. "She's not being dramatic, Mom. She's being honest, something this family could use more of." She stood as well. "I'll walk you out, Avery." At the door, Madeline surprised me with a hug. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing me it's possible to break free. Call me when you're ready," I told her, "about the job or anything else." Driving home, I realized something profound had shifted. The revenge I'd imagined proving my worth, making my family regret their dismissal, hadn't brought the satisfaction I'd anticipated. Instead, I'd found something unexpected: authenticity, the power to define myself on my own terms. and perhaps a new relationship with my sister based on mutual respect rather than competition. The next morning I called Horizon's PR team. I want to launch a new initiative, I told them. A scholarship program for young women in STEM, specifically targeting those who've been overlooked or underestimated. What should we call it? My PR director asked. I thought for a moment, remembering all the times I'd been dismissed, all the potential that had almost been wasted because no one was paying attention. The Invisible Girls Fund, I decided. For the ones no one sees coming. 2 months later, I stood on a stage looking out at 100 young women who had been selected for the first round of scholarships. In the audience, I spotted Madeline, now working in our education division and thriving. Beside her sat Aunt Clara, who had enthusiastically joined the scholarship selection committee. My parents had declined the invitation to the launch event, still nursing their wounded pride. But their absence didn't diminish the moment. I'd stopped measuring my worth through their eyes. Each of you has been underestimated at some point in your lives, I told the scholarship recipients. Each of you has been told directly or indirectly that you weren't enough. Today marks the beginning of proving those voices wrong. Not for them, but for yourselves. As applause filled the auditorium, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From overlooked second daughter to powerful CEO. From family disappointment to mentor and role model. The greatest revenge wasn't in making my family regret their treatment of me. It was in breaking free from needing their validation at all. In building a life so authentically mine that their opinions became irrelevant. And in that freedom, I found not just success but something far more valuable: peace. Hey, I can't believe we've reached the end of my story. If you've made it this far, you know how family karma eventually comes full circle. Has your family ever underestimated you, only to be shocked later? Drop your experiences in the comments below. This journey taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, but about breaking free and finding your own path. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories with unexpected twists, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that being the invisible family member doesn't determine your future. Thank you all for listening to my family revenge story. And remember, sometimes the people who see your value least are the ones who should have seen it first. Until next time.